in 2 days here, for the most part, getting prepared for San Francisco. Going to let the players have off for Christmas, and then we'll come back in the day after and get ready for these guys. So another tough matchup. We know what this was last year when we went out there and weren't able to win. So this will be good. We're looking forward to this.
Elbow, forearm, he's going to be down.
The result of the play is a touchdown.
And the flag that was thrown on this was picked up.
I don't know, did it get the face mask?
Only do that if you're telling the official you're reporting.
The Lions hangover.
All right, how's it going, everybody? This is Brad. You are listening to the Lions Hangover podcast. Oh, Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Please find me on all social medias. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and X, mostly X. Sometimes those other places too. Please, if you don't mind, give me a subscribe, give me a follow, give me a 5-star review. If you leave me the 5 stars, my attitude, feel free to bash me in the comment section. Just give me those 5 stars. That's all I care about. All right, special guest today on the show, Mr. Mark Grandy. He does the post-game show for the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, and if you're out there in San Francisco, he also does the pre- and post-game show for the Golden State Warriors. So please give a huge welcome for Mr. Mark Grandy. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, the Niners, they were just eliminated from the playoffs with that loss against Miami. They're 6-9 right now. What do you think the main story is of the season? I mean, I know of all the teams to know about injuries, that would be the Lions, but it seems like outside of Anzalone and Hutchinson, most of our injuries have been like depth pieces, and our offense has been relatively untouched. But you guys are kind of the exact opposite, where your key stars, Brandon Ayuk and McCaffrey, they've struggled with injury this year.
Yeah, you hit on it. The injuries are obviously a major story of this season, but you mentioned McCaffrey and Ayuk, who's been out since early in the season. McCaffrey only played a handful of games this entire year. Trent Williams hasn't played in like a month. His season is likely over. Kyle Shanahan saying this week. Dre Greenlaw, who tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, came back and played 2 games, although really only a half of 1 game, and then 4 plays this week against the Dolphins. Shanahan also saying that his season is likely over. They're on to their 5th string running back, if you can believe that. They've got offensive linemen that you've never heard of that are playing. Like they've got backup left and right guards that are hurt and out for the year and on IR. So it's going to be a struggle for them just to find bodies over the final 2 games of the season. So you're right, injuries, major story of this team this year. But I also think it's important from a Niners perspective to not just write off the season as, well, we had X, Y, and Z injuries. There's no way that this team could be successful. This is also a season full of failures by a number of different players and frankly, leaders, coaches, and front office members. This is a team that went into this season without really any depth on the offensive and defensive lines. This is a coaching staff that refused to adapt and change as the league is changing around them. I look at the Lions, specifically on the offensive line. You guys got all these pretty weapons and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, and that's great. You guys have the best offensive line in the NFL. And the 49ers, aside from Trent Williams, who hasn't played in a month, they got nobodies on the offensive line. Their second best offensive lineman, you could argue maybe their best offensive lineman because of Trent's injuries, has been a rookie, Dominic Cooney, out of Kansas. So this is a team that has dealt with so many injuries, yes, and you're 100% right. But this is also a team that I don't think had been built the right way from the beginning. And unless they got a crazy amount of luck and stayed healthy, which never happens in the NFL, they were going to be destined for a season like this where if a couple of key guys go down, they're going to really, really struggle. They just don't have the horses behind some of their starters. So I think it's important to admit that they've had some bad injury luck, but you said it yourself. The Lions have also had some bad injury luck, and they're still looking to be the 1 seed in the NFC. So I think there's been a failure of planning. There's been a failure of execution. And I think this is an opportunity for them to learn and improve on that in the future, because you're not ever going to have a healthy season in the NFL.
No, that's for sure. Yeah.
This is a moment where they can improve on that going forward.
Do you think outside of injuries and their injured stars, do you think that perhaps there's a few people that aren't having the season that you guys maybe needed? Like, Kittle, he's coming up on 1,000 yards, but I feel like all the tight ends around the league had like a slow start, and Deebo Samuel, like maybe he's not up to snuff. Like, does it feel like maybe you're not getting what you needed from, the guys that are left on the team as well, like the remaining stars?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you brought up Kittle, who's, as you mentioned, probably going to get 1,000 yards on Monday night against the Lions. He's had an amazing season. He's really been one of the few like face of the franchise guys that has stepped up every single week and has had an awesome season. I could throw out Fred Warner too, one of the best linebackers in the NFL, although he's been dealing and playing with a fractured ankle since week 4. So if you've noticed, he hasn't been as good as he has in the past. That's why, but he still played every single time out with that fractured ankle. So that is a guy that you got to throw out there and have some major respect for, but he hasn't been as good as he has in the past because of that fractured ankle. But you mentioned Deebo. A little frustrating to a lot of Niner fans out here that the second the Niners get eliminated from the postseason, because it actually happened just as the Dolphins game was kicking off, because the Commanders and the Rams won in the early window on Sunday, which officially eliminated the Niners. So even if the Niners had beaten the Dolphins, they would have been out. The second the Niners get eliminated from the playoffs, Deebo Samuel looks like the old Deebo Samuel. And it's a little frustrating because he hadn't looked like that all season long.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. And Deebo hasn't been as explosive. When we could talk about Brock Purdy as well, a lot of it is who you have around you, and you need to have, your offensive line playing well and a consistent running game, and you can't have Deebo Samuel dropping passes here and there, and who is your wide receiver 1 or 2 on any given week. It's difficult for a quarterback to sort through all that, but there's no doubt that Brock Purdy also hasn't been as good as he was last year when he was the MVP favorite until Christmas Day, and he threw all those interceptions against the Ravens. So there's a lot of blame to go around, but you are spot on that there's the injuries, there's some of the failures maybe of the front office and the coaching staff and building the roster, but then there's also just some of the stars that led this Niner team to NFC Championship game, and Super Bowl over the last 3 years. They just haven't played as well this season as they had those past 3 years.
Yeah. Now, Purdy, he seems to be having a bit of a mediocre year. Is this, do you think he's kind of coming back down to earth, or do you think it's because he has those missing pieces, or is it kind of related to coaching? Do you think maybe the message from the coaching staff isn't quite coming across? Like, have they lost sort of the motivation from the coaching staff? For the Red Wings here, when Mike Babcock was here, they had a lot of success, but even he said after a few years, like, the players just stopped listening, even with that success. So, him and the Red Wings decided to part ways. Do you think that's a situation in San Francisco? Do you think Shanahan is kind of losing his mojo in the locker room with the players, or does it seem like they all still kind of have his back?
I think they all still have his back, but there is a point where you go through the emotional toll of what this team has been through. And if we focus just on the Purdy era, so the 2 seasons prior to this one, you go to the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, and on your first offensive drive, your quarterback tears the UCL in his throwing elbow, and the season's practically over the second the NFC Championship game begins. Okay, that's rough. You fight all the way back, and you have an amazing regular season. Your quarterback, who was Mr. Irrelevant the year prior, is having an MVP-type campaign. You get the 1 seed. We know what happens in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl. I don't need to pain all your Lions fans listeners for what happened in the NFC Championship game. An awesome game, but we know how painful that is. And then you go all the way to the Super Bowl, and you have a chance to knock off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and you fall a step short in the Super Bowl, a year after you fell a step short in the NFC Championship game. And now you're tasked with a veteran roster, a roster that is no doubt aging and that is getting more difficult to keep together because of all the financial constraints. And you're kind of tasked with trying to do it all over again. And starting over from square one is not an easy thing to do physically. It's not an easy thing to do mentally when you've been so close so many times and you say, well, now we got to start at 0-0 again and try to build all the way back up there. It's not an easy thing to do, I think, for any human being. So you have that aspect of it. And then you have the injury aspect of it. Then you get to a point where you have a do-or-die game kind of in Green Bay where it's snowing. And then you have the same thing in Buffalo the next week. And you're like, well, we don't stand a chance in these games. And then you kind of get to the point where you just say, well, are we just going to pack it up and maybe plan for next year? It's a difficult thing for a team to go through. Now, when it goes to Kyle Shanahan, I don't think there's any instance of him losing the locker room or the team losing faith in him and the talk of hot seat or will the Niners decide to move on from him, that's far-fetched. And if they win 5 games, 6 games next year, okay, maybe then that's a conversation. But I think there is a lot of pressure on Kyle Shanahan to adjust his mindset and adjust his philosophy. I look at what Dan Campbell does, and I know it bit you guys in the NFC Championship game, and going forward on 4th down, and just the ultra-aggressiveness. Shanahan is on the complete other end of the spectrum. He is as conservative as it gets. And in today's NFL, that just might not be the way to go anymore. So I think it's on him to adjust. And the safe route that has had success for him in the past, it might not be the route to success in the NFL anymore. So I think this is a big reflection off season for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan to look at how the game has kind of changed around them and say, we got to play a little bit of catch up, because for a while the league was playing catch up to us. They have caught us, they have passed us, and now we're the ones that got to do the chasing. So I don't think it's as far as the locker room is Shanahan has fallen out of favor in the locker room, but I do think it's a moment where the whole organization kind of has to face the changing league, and if they don't adjust themselves, then they're going to be left behind.
As far as the game itself, Lions against the Niners, Monday Night Football, is there anybody on offense for the 49ers that the Lions should look out for, maybe like a hidden bright spot or anything, or is it just pretty much Purdy and Kittle and that's the show?
Well, it's going to be a lot of George Kittle, I would imagine. I mean, he's been the one consistent all season long. In terms of running backs, I mean, okay, so let's run through them all. Everyone knows Christian McCaffrey. He's played a few games out for the year. Obviously, he was dealing with Achilles tendonitis for the first part of the season, then dealing with a calf injury in the Buffalo game and hasn't played since, and he's out for the season. If you remember, early in the season, they had Jordan Mason, who's relative unknown coming into the year, but was awesome without McCaffrey. He hasn't played since the Buffalo game as well, and he's likely out for the season. In the preseason, in training camp, they lost Elijah Mitchell for the season. If you remember a few years ago, Elijah Mitchell was a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie, but since McCaffrey came on, hasn't really been used all that much. And then Isaac Guerendo, a rookie this year, who was really good in a short burst after McCaffrey went down in Buffalo, he's also out now and not available. So you're looking at Patrick Taylor Jr. as the top running back. And I just run through all those names just to show you that don't really expect anything crazy from Niners running backs. Maybe you get a little bit more Deebo Samuel in the backfield, which we saw in Miami on Sunday. But there won't be anything crazy from running backs. The receiver to watch will, I guess you could throw Deebo Samuel in there as well, because he did have a good game against the Dolphins. But maybe the unsung hero of the Niners season, Kittle gets all the praise and he deserves all of it. It's Jauan Jennings. This is a 7th-round pick a number of years ago out of Tennessee, and he's really come into his own this year, and he's been the Niners' most consistent receiver. Like Kittle as a tight end, it's Jauan Jennings as a wide receiver. I mean, he leads all wide receivers in catches and yards. He's a 3rd down monster. He's one of Purdy's favorite targets, like in those big moments on 3rd down. in a big moment on second and long, in the red zone as well. So I'd throw out Jauan Jennings as one to watch. I'm sure a lot of Lions fans already know about Jauan because he has had a pretty good season, but it's not a Devo, it's not a Kittle, it's not a McCaffrey, it's not an Ayuk. Jauan Jennings, I think, would be the other to watch in addition to George Kittle.
All right. And what about defense? Who you guys got that we should be afraid of?
So defense is an interesting one because you've had obviously Fred Warner all year, and Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. His running mate, though, Drake Greenlaw, as we talked about, just has played a game, half a game really, appeared in 2 games, but he's now very likely done for the season. Kyle Shanahan said they're likely going to shut him down, dealing with the Achilles that he tore in the Super Bowl, tried to come back, hasn't been able to play a full game. So smart to just shut him down. So I imagine we will not see him on Monday night. In terms of on the defensive line, I mean, you guys know who Nick Bosa is. I feel like the Lions have kind of built their roster similar to the way that the Niners did in the beginning of this Niners run. I mean, for Nick Bosa, you guys have Aiden Hutchinson. I know he's out and hasn't played in a while, but like Bosa is the Niners' Aiden Hutchinson to kind of compare rosters. In defensive backs, Mooney Ward was an All-Pro last year. He's awesome. Hasn't had as good of a year this year, but has been dealing with some personal issues. The one guy that maybe isn't known as much around the league that deserves some shine, and if the team was better, probably would get some All-Pro consideration. That's Deommodore Lenoir, who was a late-round draft pick out of Oregon a handful of years ago. He's developed into a shutdown corner. He played an awesome game on Tyreek Hill on Sunday, and that is one of the toughest covers in the NFL. I would imagine we'll see a decent amount of Deommodore Lenoir on Amon-Ra. That's going to be a big, big challenge, especially because Lenoir often acts as the Niners' nickel corner. So he'll be in the slot. I know Amon-Ra often comes out of the slot. So I would expect Deommodore Lenoir, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, that to be a showdown. And obviously, Amon-Ra is an All-Pro, one of the best receivers in the NFL. There's no corner that can stop him. But Deommodore Lenoir is, I think, severely underrated nationally. So I'd look at Deommodore Lenoir, cornerback, as a player to watch if you're a Lion fan heading into this game.
All right. And then real quick before we go here, have you heard the rumors or murmurs of like the Kyle Shanahan trade, and what's your thoughts on Brock Purdy bringing him back on a larger contract?
Yes, we have heard those rumors, that drama. I think it's pure speculation. The 49ers have no interest in trading Kyle Shanahan. I think it's so funny because people throw out those rumors and they say, all right, the Chicago Bears will give the 49ers whatever, like $15 million and 3 first-round picks.
Right.
And you just ask yourself, okay, how many assets, players, coaches, whoever, across the NFL would get that haul? Like 3 first-round picks plus money. How many assets get that haul in the NFL? And you're talking about like maybe only Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like only the elite quarterbacks are getting that kind of haul. So that just goes to tell you how the rest of the league views someone like Kyle Shanahan as incredibly, incredibly valuable. And the Niners are in no business in trading away an asset like that. So I think all that talk, it's pure speculation. It is never, ever going to happen, at least not at this moment. But you bring up the other interesting point, which is the Brock Purdy conversation. And this has the potential to get really interesting this offseason because the 49ers are in a spot where they have so much money tied up to so many other key veteran players. But as we talked about earlier, maybe they've underperformed a little bit so far this year. And if you pay Brock Purdy, say, I don't know, $60 million, which is kind of the going rate for quarterbacks nowadays, for quarterbacks that have any, kind of success in the NFL. Like, just look at what Dak Prescott got last offseason.
Yeah.
Ask the Cowboys if they regret that.
I mean,
I'm
and
sure
Purdy
they
definitely
are.
has the resume too. It's other than this
Better
year.
resume than Dak, no doubt.
Yeah.
Better resume than a lot of quarterbacks around the NFL.
Yeah.
But just because you're a top 15 at worst, top 10 quarterback, maybe, depending on who you ask, doesn't mean that you deserve the biggest contract in the NFL. And the Niners are in a spot where they have planned for it, and if Brock Purdy deserves $60 million, I think that they would not hesitate and give it to him. But he's had a season where you kind of ask yourself, well, if this is how he performs without McCaffrey and without Ayuk, and maybe with a Debo who isn't as good as he once was, well, if we give him $60 million a year, then we're not going to be able to put all this all-pro talent around him on a consistent basis. He has to show that he can be better when the talent around him isn't as good as, say, it was last year. So there's a real conundrum going on, I think, for the Niners this offseason. What is interesting is he has one more year left on his rookie deal, and then the Niners can franchise tag him. So they could just play ultra hardball and say, sorry, Brock, play your contract out, then we'll franchise tag you, and we'll deal with it in a couple of years. But Brock, of course, has all the leverage because he can just say, all right, I'm not playing unless I get a new deal. And then who are the Niners going to play at quarterback at that point? So it's a real conundrum, I think, and it's going to be one of the stories of the offseason because the Niners are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where maybe they ultimately have to bite the bullet and they got to pay a quarterback to a certain amount of money that maybe they feel like he's not quite worth.
I do feel like there has to be a certain level of not arrogance, but definitely confidence that this regime has kind of been like quarterback whisperers, like no matter who they have at quarterback, with maybe the exception of Trey Lance, like there's been nothing but production,
Yeah. And I mean, even point to, he's probably the bane of a lot of Lions fans' existence right now, but Sam Darnold doing things in Minnesota, he was a backup for the Niners last year. Not that being a backup for the Niners means you suddenly learn all crazy things about quarterbacking that help you. But, the Niners identified Sam Darnold a year ago as a guy that they wanted on their roster. And if something happened to Brock, a guy they trusted to come in and play good football. So there's obviously clearly a decent level of evaluation going on here. And maybe what the Niners do this offseason, in addition to trying to negotiate a lesser deal for Purdy, maybe it is try to find the next Sam Darnold, whether that's, I'm just throwing out names, not that I believe any of these guys are great, but you're looking for cheap quarterbacks who were highly drafted and obviously talented, but haven't had a ton of success so far, maybe mostly because of the system they're in, like guys like Mac Jones, guys like Zach Wilson, guys like Daniel Jones, right? It's guys in the Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith mold who obviously were talented but haven't had success, now are cheap, and maybe you give them a chance and maybe they become the next Baker. They become the next Sam Darnold. So I would look at that as something the Niners do this offseason as well. You bring in a backup that maybe has a trajectory similar to someone like Sam Darnold.
I think Darnold's success this year just shows how messed up the Jets and the Panthers are. That's
no doubt. No doubt.
All right, last question. How you think your Ducks going to do? They going to win it all or what?
Oh, well, I will just see all of you Lions fans out there. I would imagine a bunch of you are also Wolverine fans. First of all, amazing win over the Buckeyes. That was so much fun to watch. I promise you, my Ducks will return the favor and we will beat the Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl once again. And I don't know about winning a national championship. I can't go quite that far, but we will defend the West Coast and we will send the Bucks back home to end their season.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Yep, appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yep, thank you. Have a good one.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye. And you guys can give him a follow at Mark Grandy on X. I will have his link in my show notes, so please give him a follow. Great guy. Really appreciate him taking some time there. All right, so let's do a quick rundown of the San Francisco 49ers stats. Mr. Brock Purdy, he's played in 14 games so far this year. He is 273 of 420. That's completing 65% of his passes. Not so bad. He's passed for 3,487 yards. He has 17 touchdowns on the year and 10 interceptions. He has had 29 sacks as well with a quarterback rating of 94.4. Next, let's talk about their running backs. They've got so many guys that have touched the ball this year. Let's just say as a team, they've ran for 1,950 yards. They are averaging 4.7 yards a carry as a team. They do have 14 rushing touchdowns on the season. They are averaging 130 yards flat, not even a point, but flat yeah, they have 12 fumbles in the running game, and they've only lost 2 of them. So they're really good at recovering their own balls. Leading receivers, we got George Kittle. He has 68 receptions for 967 yards. He should hit that 1,000-yard mark against the Lions on Monday Night Football. Next up, they have Mr. Jauan Jennings. He has played in 13 games. He's caught 63 balls on 93 targets for 856 yards. We got Deebo Samuel. He's caught 50 balls for 665 yards. Kittle's got 8 touchdowns, by the way, and Jennings has 6. Deebo only has 2 touchdowns on the year. Of course, Brandon Ayuk is out, and that's pretty much the bulk, of their wide receivers here. Warner leads the team with tackles with 117. You heard he's got that fractured leg, though, so it doesn't look like he's going to be a weakness, but who knows what's going to happen after that. And then we have second place on their team, Mr. Devondre Campbell, who was just cut. Oh, I should have asked about that. Lenore is their second, or their third, well, I guess second now that Campbell's not playing, their second leading tackler, cornerback, of course, with 76th. And then we have Jair Brown, safety, who is fourth place with 70 tackles, or third place because of Campbell. So now Jake Moody's made 23 of 30 field goal attempts this year for 76.7%, his longest being 53 yards. He is, Mr. Automatic from 20 to 40 yards. We all know this from his University of Michigan days. But anything over 40 yards, he starts to get a little bit shaky. He was 6 for 10 from 40 to 49, and he's 3 for 6 with kicks over 50 yards. Now, as a team, they're scoring 22.1 points per game. They are giving up 23.3 points a game. They are converting about 42% of their third downs and about 46% of their fourth downs. They are only 6 for 13 on their fourth down. Isn't that ridiculous? Either how little they go for it on fourth down or how much we go for it on fourth down. By comparison, the Lions are 18 of 26 for 69.23% of their fourth downs. Isn't that ridiculous? We're probably twice as much as the next closest team on fourth downs. The forecast as of right now in San Francisco looks like it's going to be a beautiful day Monday night. Sunshine, no clouds, no chance of rain. As of right now, it's going to be in the upper 50s, maybe lower 50s, upper 40s by the time the game is going on. I don't see the weather being too much of a factor. It's the Niners. You can't take anything for granted. I think it would be silly of me to say that it's going to be a close game, but again, I don't want to be too sure of ourselves, but things are going the right direction again for the Lions. So if I had to guess, it's probably going to be similar to the Bears game as far as the score goes. I'm thinking another 35-20 victory for the Lions. Look for Jahmyr Gibbs to have another great game. I think it's going to be more of the same old. It is a revenge game. It is a game that early in the season I was guaranteeing a victory. I still feel pretty confident about that. But if you look at the schedule at the beginning of the season, unfortunately, this game is not going to be what it was supposed to be, back in September. The Niners just aren't having the year that they wanted to have, that they needed to have to make this revenge game a bit more juicy. But hey, it is what it is. I think the Lions are going to go into San Francisco and handle their business. There's not too much I'm worried about. I was really happy with our defensive backs play, back in the secondary. I just, look for more of the same old. I think the Lions are going to go into that last game of the season against the Vikings, and they're going to be, 14-2 by the end of the season. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. That's all I got today. This is the preview show, the pregame show, if you will, but it's more like the preview. I don't want to say pregame because it's not happening minutes before the game. It's happening days before the game. So thanks for everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. There we go. We got it. I've been Brad, and you've been listening to your 5th favorite podcast about the Detroit Lions. All right, thanks for listening. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope you're all safe and having a good time. Adios.